On today's episode of the franchise, April 17th, we got NBA playoffs, game one reactions, and recap from the first round of the NBA playoffs. All the first games were this weekend. MLB Power Rankings, the top 10 as well as the rest of the 30 teams. Jalen Hurts got a massive NFL contract extension. What does that mean for Lamar Jackson and his potential contract from the Baltimore Ravens? And then the Texans rumors on the second, number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. Their GM came out and gave some comments about that. See what that means. I think it's just smoke, but we'll get to that in a little bit. As always, franchise is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. You can find the TikTok, Twitter, Instagram in the description of every episode. All right, we're going to start with the NBA playoffs. Game one of all of these first-round series. We're going to start from the order that they started with on Saturday. First game, Brooklyn Nets, Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers won this one, 121-101. Going through here, Mikal Bridges for the Nets, 30 points, 10 rebounds. Cam Johnson, 18-5, 4 for 6 from 3. Nick Claxton had 10 boards. Brooklyn was 13-29 from the three-point line. Philadelphia really dominated this game, though. I mean, there was some moments where they would have like a 10, 15-point lead. Brooklyn would cut it really close to like 4, 6 points. And then Philadelphia would come back out with another 10, 15-point lead. So it was really, Philly would have a big lead. Brooklyn would catch up, and then it just keep going like that the entire game. For Philly, Embiid had 26. Harden had 23 points, 13 assists, 7 for 13 from the three-point line for James Harden in this game. Tobias Harris had 21 points. Tyrese Maxey had 13, 21 for 43 from the three-point line for Philadelphia. And then Brooklyn, they didn't score in the fourth quarter until the 9:05 mark. So for about 3, almost 4 minutes, Brooklyn did not score the basketball once in the fourth quarter. I said in this series, I think in my prediction on Friday, I said Brooklyn's capable of winning at least 1 or 2 games in this series. I think I had Philadelphia in 6. Brooklyn's definitely capable of winning some games. All right, Mikal Bridges had 30 points in this game. He's their primary scorer. Cam Johnson is really their number 2 outside of like Spencer Dinwiddie, but they have 3-point shooting on the bench, right? Joe Harris and Seth Curry, those guys didn't have great games, but they're capable of hitting big shots in big moments to potentially steal a few games. Now, I still think Philadelphia is going to win the series, and they proved that today with on Saturday with a 20-point win over the Brooklyn Nets. Philadelphia is clearly the better team, right? They have the better stars. They have better talent on the roster compared to Brooklyn. I think this one was kind of a very expected result in this game. Boston Celtics, Atlanta Hawks. Celtics won this game 112-99. I think this was another game where you could kind of say you were going to expect Boston to dominate this game, and that's exactly what they did. For the Hawks, they struggled. They played some of the worst basketball of the season. DeJounte Murray, 24 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. He was 0 for 6 from the three-point line. Trae Young had a very, very tough game. I believe he was 0 for 5 from the three-point line to start the game. He finished with 16 points, 8 assists, and he finished 1 for 5 from the three-point line. Atlanta was 5 for 29 from 3. That is not going to win you a game when Trae Young is a three-point shooter. He just chucks up threes, right? DeJounte Murray, he gets inside a lot too and is a nice playmaker, but I mean he was 0 for 6 in this game from 3, right? In a time and era in the NBA where you need three-pointers to compete in a game, going 5 for 29 from 3 is not a recipe to win a game. Boston, they played great. Brown and Tatum. Brown had 29 points and 12 rebounds, and Tatum had 25 and 11. Derek White had 24 points. The rest of the starters and the rest of the bench for Boston, they ran an 8-man group against these Atlanta Hawks. So, I mean, that's what you can do. You can rest up the deeper guys on your bench, the 9, 10, 11, 12 guys on your bench, and run an 8-man rotation against a Hawks team that struggled and that, quite honestly, will not win a single game against this Boston Celtics team because the Celtics have elite defense and they have 2 elite scorers in Brown and Tatum. And Marcus Smart was a former Defensive Player of the Year winner. Al Horford down in the middle of the floor. 13 for 33 from Boston from three-point range. And then in this particular game, they led by as many as 32 points. So Boston and Atlanta, the gap there is absolutely massive. Knicks, Cavs. Knicks win this one 101-97 on the road. Like I said, this is going to be one of the best series of the first round. I think this one will go 7 games. I mean, Cleveland almost won this game, right? Cleveland was in this game the entire time, and the Knicks pull out with the win, in the last few minutes. Brunson, 27 points. He's their number one option. This is a guy that in the offseason signs with the with the New York Knicks from the Mavericks on a pretty big free agent contract, and the conversation immediately is the Knicks overpaid for Jalen Brunson. This is a deal for a guy who's a nice role player, a nice third option on a team, but he cannot be the number one guy. Well, he proved that wrong, not only in the entire season, but then also in this game, dropping 27 points on a Cleveland team that is the best defensive team in the NBA. Julius Randle had 19 points, 10 rebounds. Josh Hart had 17 points and 10 rebounds off the bench. They were only 8 for 29 from the three-point range, but neither of these teams... Cleveland is a pretty solid three-point shooting team, but offensively, neither of these two teams were really tops in offensive points per game this regular season. Donovan Mitchell had 38 points. He was 6 for 16 from 3. Garland had 17. Jared Allen, 14 and 14. And then Evan Mobley was a guy who had a very disappointing game. Only 8 points and 11 rebounds as a starter. The Cavs need him to step up and drop 20 points and play great defensive player of the year type defense for them to be for them to win one of these games. Now I know they only lost by 4 points here, but Evan Mobley is really the X factor to this series, right? You can expect Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland to play elite backcourt offense and then some great defense as well. And then Jared Allen in the middle, you know what you're going to get from him, right? 14 points, 14 rebounds. You're going to get a few blocks there. You know what you're getting from those guys. But Evan Mobley needs to take the jump and be a 15, 20 point per game guy in these playoffs in this first round against the Knicks, right? Because down low, the Knicks don't have many people to match up against a Mobley and an Allen. They have a Julius Randle and they have Mitchell Robinson. But outside of that, the matchups for the Cavs are a lot better in that area of the game than the Knicks. So Evan Mobley's going to need to take some steps up in the rest of this series for the Cavs to go out there and win it all. I do think the Cavs still win in 7, right? I think this will be a great series. It's going to be a back and forth one. But the Knicks had a great win by 4 points. It was still a close game. Cleveland was in it till the very end. Just New York made more shots. Brunson made some very, very clutch shots. Josh Hart as well. I mean, if Josh Hart keeps playing like that off the bench, the Knicks are going to win this series. All right, the next one here, Warriors-Kings. This was the best game of the entire weekend. Of the first games of this first round, this was the best playoff game so far, and this might be one of the best playoff basketball games I've ever seen. The Kings pull off the win at home, 126-123. This was a back-and-forth battle in the fourth quarter. I mean, it was just De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk against Steph Curry. Steph Curry would hit a three, De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk would answer right back. It'd just be a back-and-forth three-point layup, a mid-range affair for these two teams, and they played amazing. Steph Curry had 30 points in this game. He had a crazy fourth quarter, and like the last 2-3 minutes of this fourth quarter for Steph Curry were absolutely incredible. He makes that insane corner three with a few minutes left on the in the game. He's basically shooting from behind the backboard and nails the three. He makes some crazy layups, another three from the top of the arc at one point in this fourth quarter. And then De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk played absolutely amazing. De'Aaron Fox had 38 points in his first ever playoff game. He was 4 for 8 from the three-point line. Malik Monk had 32 points off of the bench. For the Warriors, Steph Curry, like I said, 30 points. Klay had 21. Wiggins and Poole both had 17 points. They were 16 from 50 from the three-point range. Domantas Sabonis had 12 points, 16 rebounds in this game. He did not have a great offensive game for the Sacramento Kings, but they still found a way to win this game. Jordan Poole is a defensive liability, right? Malik Monk lit up Jordan Poole in this game. And Jordan Poole is such a great offensive player, right? He really fits alongside Steph and Clay and then Andrew Wiggins as well. But his defense is a liability. If he's out there, the opposing team is going to expose him on the offensive end. And that is exactly what Malik Monk did in this game. They exposed Kevin Huerter, right? All of those guys for the Kings exposed Jordan Poole when he was out there defensively. So he's a great offensive player. It's just you cannot play him when the minutes matter, when the time matters most, because the offense is going to expose Jordan Poole defensively. This was a great game, right? I think this series is going to go 6-7 games because these two teams, complement each other so well. The Warriors had some opportunities to win this game. Wiggins missed a wide open three to go up 2 points with less than a minute left in the fourth quarter. He misses that shot. Steph misses a three-pointer with 2 seconds left, and the Kings win their first playoff game in, 16 years? So Sacramento goes up 1-0. This was the best playoff game I think I've seen in a very, very long time. This should be a very exciting series. I think the Warriors will bounce back. I don't know the next time these teams play because the NBA playoff schedule is very, very weird. But I think the Warriors will bounce back in the next game convincingly with a nice win here to tie it up. Lakers, Grizzlies on Sunday. This is the first game of Sunday. The Lakers win this one 128-112 on the road, take down the number 2 seed in the first game of the series, and the Lakers really dominated this game. And how about the Lakers bench and the Lakers role players outside of LeBron and AD really making an impact on this game? Rui Hachimura had 29 points off the bench. He was 5 for 6 from the three-point line. That's the most points by a Laker off the bench in a playoff game since Magic Johnson. That's great company to be in for Rui Hachimura. Austin Reeves, 22 points, 3 for 5 from the three-point range. Austin Reeves, this guy is one of the best players right now in the NBA. I mean, this guy is absolutely insane. He's a great scorer. He's tenacious on the defensive end. He's a great three-point shooter, a great playmaker, has a very high basketball IQ. He's one of the best players on the Lakers, one of the best players on the floor in basically any given game. I mean, he has the ability to change the course of a game, and that's exactly what he did here against the Grizzlies. AD had 22 points as well, 12 rebounds. He had 7 blocks in this game. The Grizzlies in the first quarter tried to attack Anthony Davis down low in the paint, and he was just rejecting every single shot that they attempted on him. I mean, you saw Jaren Jackson Jr. try to go down low. You saw John Morant. You had Dylan Brooks, Tyus Jones. All those guys tried to go down low on Anthony Davis in the first quarter, and it was just not working for them at all. AD went out for a minute with an arm injury, came back out, played absolutely amazing. LeBron was the 4th leading scorer in this game. He was the 4th option in this game. 21, 11, and 3 blocks for LeBron James. If LeBron doesn't have to be the number 1 option for your team to win a playoff game, you're in a really, really good position to make a run in the postseason. And then D'Angelo Russell had 19 points. He really struggled from the three-point range to start the game, kind of just chucking up shots here. But as the game went on, he found other guys, found LeBron, found AD, found Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, found all of those guys open, and they hit their shots. For the Grizzlies, John Morant, 18 points, but then he injured his hand. His fingers literally went into the floor and bent backwards. So we'll see if he's going to be available for the rest of this series or for some of these games, because if not, the Lakers are going to win this series because the Memphis Grizzlies really struggled outside of their top 3 players. Jaren Jackson Jr. had 31, 5, and 2 blocks. Desmond Bane, 22 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. I already said Ja had 18 points. Dylan Brooks had 15 points. And then the bench for the Memphis Grizzlies had 24 points. So the Grizzlies team, their players outside of Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, and Ja Morant, they need to perform better. You need Luke Kennard to hit some three-point shots as the best three-point shooter percentage-wise in the NBA during the regular season. You need these guys to step up if Ja Morant is going to be out. I mean, Tyus Jones is going to have to take a leap and be the starting point guard, the facilitator of this offense if Ja Morant misses some games here or potentially the rest of the series for Memphis. So if the Lakers continue to play at this level, right, if LeBron is your fourth leading scorer in this series for the rest of these games, the Lakers are going to win this series, right? I bet LeBron is going to have a moment in this series against the Grizzlies where he drops 35, 40 points. It's going to happen. But if LeBron doesn't have to, and you have help from AD, Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt's defense, if Rui Hachimura continues to be Magic Johnson off of the bench, the Lakers will win this series against a Memphis Grizzlies team that is really lacking scoring outside of their top three players. Miami Heat, 8th seed, taking on the Milwaukee Bucks in Milwaukee, and the Heat pull off the upset. They win 130-117. Miami dominated this entire game. I mean, Miami was in control of this game from the start. Jimmy Butler had 35 points in 43 minutes played. He is going to play every single game of every single series that the Heat are in. He will not miss a minute of action. Bam Adebayo, 22 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. Gabe Vincent had 15, 4 for 5 from the three-point range. Kevin Love, the buyout pickup from Cleveland, 18 points. Caleb Martin, 15 points. Tyler Hero, this is probably the most unfortunate news for the Heat, is that Tyler Hero broke his hand and he's going to be out for the remainder of the postseason. That is a really big loss. He's their main three-point shooting guy outside of a Kevin Love and a Caleb Martin and Gabe Vincent. Obviously, Duncan Robinson is still there, but that guy gets 2 minutes and gets benched for the rest of the game. Duncan Robinson is not an impact player for the Miami Heat, but Tyler Hero, being that third, fourth option, their three-point spark plug player for the Miami Heat, him being out is definitely going to hurt them. But the Bucks have a way more serious injury that might actually kick them out of the playoffs a lot earlier than expected, and that's Giannis with a back injury. Questionable to return for the next game of this series and potentially the rest of the series. Giannis might be out for this entire series against the Heat, and if that is the case, I mean, you're talking about the Heat potentially having a chance to win this series against the Milwaukee Bucks because Giannis is the main driving force of this Milwaukee Bucks team. In this game, Middleton had 33 points, Portis had 21, Holiday had 16, but outside of that, Brook Lopez had a bad game. Grayson Allen had a very bad performance. All of those guys in the Milwaukee Bucks, Jake Crowder didn't do anything. Those guys outside of Holiday, Portis, and Chris Middleton did absolutely nothing in this game. And if Giannis is going to be out for 1, 2, 3, if he's going to be out for the whole series, the Bucks need some guys to step up. Chris Middleton needs to be a 40-point-per-game scorer. Drew Holiday needs to play all-NBA defense and be a 20-point-per-game guy in this series. Brook Lopez needs to, channel up his defense a little bit better down at the rim. The Bucks are in serious trouble if Giannis is out for the series. If they're out for the series, I think the Heat actually have a chance to win this game or win this series and upset the 1 seed because Giannis is the most important player, the most valuable player to any team in these playoffs. I mean, if you're looking at a team star going out on any of these teams and them still having a chance, I think, outside of the Grizzlies losing Ja Morant, there's not many other teams where if LeBron is out, I think the Lakers still have a chance. If Steph Curry goes out, the Warriors still have a chance. If the Kings lose De'Aaron Fox, they're kind of done, right? But Sabonis is still there, Monk is still there. They have some potential. If the Sixers lose Embiid, they're still going to beat the Brooklyn Nets. If the Celtics lose Tatum or Brown, they still have the other guy. The Knicks and Cavs, you could argue if the Knicks lose Brunson, they're kind of done, right? But no team is going to be impacted more by their star being out than the Milwaukee Bucks if they lose Giannis for this entire series against the Heat. And if that is the case, if Giannis doesn't play another minute for the Bucks against the Heat will win this series in 5 games. All right, 2 more games here from the first games of the first round of the NBA playoffs. Clippers taking on the Suns. Phoenix at home, and the Clippers win this one 115-110. Kawhi Leonard, 38 points. Eric Gordon had 19. Zubac had 12 and 15 rebounds. And then Russell Westbrook, 9 points, 11 rebounds, 2 steals, and 3 blocks. Offensively, Russell Westbrook was not an impactful player in this game, but that's not where he needed to be. His impact was on the defensive end, on the glass, on the playmaking side of things, and at the free throw line too, and when it mattered most. I mean, Russ had some clutch steals, a clutch block on Devin Booker, stripped some balls out of Kevin Durant's hand a few times, was on the offensive glass. I mean, and offensive and defensive glass. This guy was just able to get rebounds and then bring the ball back out to the top of the key, reset the Clippers offense, find Kawhi, find Eric Gordon, find these guys out available to hit big-time shots. Russell Westbrook had an incredible game, despite the box score, not showing it. Offensively, he was not an impactful player in terms of scoring points, but every other facet of the game, Russell Westbrook was the most impactful player. He's the reason they won this game. If Russell Westbrook doesn't have this kind of performance, right, for the Clippers, the Suns easily win this game. Kevin Durant, 27 points, 9 rebounds, 11 assists, a rebound shy of a triple-double. Booker had 26 points, Torrey Craig, 22, DeAndre Ayton, 18 and 8, CP3, 7 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists. Like I said, if Russell Westbrook doesn't have this kind of performance that he had for the Clippers in this game, the Suns are up 1-0. I said Suns in 4. I will go Suns in 5. And then final game of the first of the weekend, first round, first games of the NBA playoffs. Minnesota Timberwolves, Denver Nuggets, absolute blowout by Denver, 109-80. The Timberwolves are getting swept. This team is not a playoff team. They are lacking scoring. They are lacking defense. They're lacking people outside of Anthony Edwards. Karl-Anthony Towns had a horrible game, 11 points, 10 rebounds. I mean, if he's your number 1, number 2 option, Karl-Anthony Towns is just not performing in the playoffs. He's never been a great playoff performer. He's kind of gone silent when it comes to the playoffs. Rudy Gobert, you know what you're going to get from him in the postseason. That's absolutely nothing. And then the Denver Nuggets, Jokic had 13 points, 14 rebounds. He didn't have to do much in this game offensively. Murray had 24, Michael Porter Jr. 18, KCP 15, and Denver was 16 out of 39 from the three-point range. So that is the first games from the first round of the NBA playoffs. The games tonight on Monday, I think there's only 2. Brooklyn, Philadelphia, and then Warriors against the Kings in tonight's action. So I think Philadelphia is going to go up 2-0, and then I think the Warriors will tie up the series tonight on the road at 1 apiece against the Sacramento Kings. Wow. ESPN shows the ticket prices for these games, for these playoff games. Kings Warriors, the lowest ticket you can get is $241. But Brooklyn, Philadelphia, you can go to that playoff game for $43. You can go to the Bucks playoff game for $28. Damn. That is very cheap. That is, if I was living in Philadelphia, I'm going to the playoff game tonight. All right, that's going to do it for the NBA, right? The recap. We're going to recap every single playoff game for the entire rest of these playoffs. I mean, these are really the only time that these NBA games matter all season long, right? That's why we didn't do any NBA recaps during the regular season, because the games don't matter until right now. These are the most important games of the NBA season. All right, let's go to the Houston Texans real quick. So for the last few weeks, we've been talking about them potentially not drafting a quarterback at the number 2 overall pick, right? In the NFL mock draft 4.0 that we did, I had them, based off of a rumor and some rumors circulating out there, I had them drafting Will Anderson Jr. number 2, and then trading their 12th pick and some future assets to Seattle for number 5. Because there was a rumor circulating that, look, they will pass on a quarterback at 2, use their second first-round pick, which is the number 12 overall pick, trade back into, the top 10, the top 5, and then draft a quarterback there. Last episode, I had them taking a quarterback. I still had them taking C.J. Stroud because I had Bryce Young going number 1 overall to the Panthers. But there's still a lot of a lot of rumors, a lot of buzz about the Texans not being sold on a quarterback at number 2. And then potentially drafting a Will Anderson Jr. or now a Tyree Wilson who's shooting up boards and potentially being the first defensive player off the board. Them trading the pick, getting more assets. Their GM, Nick Caserio, he said today, I don't know exactly where he said this at, but he said that, are we receiving offers on the second overall pick? We are listening to offers. So they're listening to offers, right? They're not shopping the second overall pick, but they're answering the phone of teams potentially inquiring about acquiring this second overall pick. I think this is all just buzz. This is all smoke that the Texans are putting out there to see if a team will offer them a nice package to move up to number 2. Because look, the Houston Texans are one of the worst rosters right now in the NFL, and they're years away from being a competitive football team. They have so many holes on this roster. They need to address some more pieces on the offensive line outside of Laramie Tunsil. They need a quarterback. They need wide receivers and a tight end. They need a running back. They need a whole defense. They need corners. They need pass rush. They need linebackers. The Houston Texans need an entire roster on this team. So the number 2 overall pick, a quarterback there, I think it makes sense. I think they'll ultimately end up drafting a quarterback there, but in a draft class where there's a Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Richardson, Will Levis, you can make the case for a team like the Indianapolis Colts that need a quarterback, the Raiders, the Falcons, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Tennessee Titans, getting so desperate and seeing one of these guys like a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud or an Anthony Richardson sitting there at number 2, making a very nice, enticing offer to the Houston Texans, and then they trade the pick. I think all of this is just smoke for them trying to see what kind of offers are out there. I think ultimately they will draft a quarterback too, whether it's Young or Stroud. One of those two will be selected by the Texans. Now their second pick at number 12, there's been mocks of, if it's CJ Stroud, it's going to be Jackson Smith and Jigba at 12, his college wide receiver. There's no way the Texans walk out of this draft with 2 first-round picks and not selecting a defensive player for their new head coach, DeMeco Ryans, the former defensive coordinator for the 49ers, a defensive-minded head coach. He is getting a defensive player in this first round. There's too much defensive talent at the edge position, at the inside pass rusher position, or at the corner position. There's too much defensive talent out there for them to just go 2 offensive players in the first round of this draft. So I think they go quarterback at 2, and then they're either going to go, an edge rusher, a defensive tackle, a corner with their 12th overall pick in this draft. All right. Finally, on 2 more things actually on the episode. Jalen Hurts with my fucking God. I thought I muted calls on my phone, but I'm still getting calls. I muted the calls and I keep getting calls. So, I don't know. Jalen Hurts got a massive extension today from the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me pull it up right here. Jalen Hurts, 5 years, $255 million, $179 million guaranteed. That is the largest deal in the NFL history in terms of average annual value. That is also, outside of Deshaun Watson's fully guaranteed contract, this is the most guaranteed money for a quarterback. Jalen Hurts deserves every single penny that he's getting in this contract. He led the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, they have a great team around them. They have a great defense, a great O-line, a great skill position group. But Jalen Hurts, if they have Carson Wentz on this team for Philadelphia last season, they're not going to the Super Bowl and potentially winning it against the Kansas City Chiefs. Jalen Hurts led them to a Super Bowl. His stats last season: 66.5% completion percentage, 3,000 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He had 760 yards rushing and 13 touchdowns as well. So he's a true dual threat quarterback. I think he's the best dual threat quarterback in the game. Probably him right next to Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts is right behind those two as well. So this deal for Hurts, great timing for the Eagles, right? The longer you wait to get a deal done with Jalen Hurts, if they waited another year and he performs better and wins an MVP, his price goes up. If he wins the Super Bowl, it goes up. When Lamar gets his extension, and Burrow and Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts' price only goes up from there. So this is a great time, right? I think all of those quarterbacks, I think Burrow, Herbert, are going to get more guaranteed money. So it was a great thing the Eagles got this deal done now, but I mean, this still begs the question of what is Lamar Jackson going to get if he does get a long-term contract deal done with the Ravens or another team. Is he getting $179 million guaranteed? I think he should definitely get somewhere in the range, right? Him and Jalen Hurts kind of have had similar careers. Lamar has an MVP. Hurts doesn't have an MVP. He finished second. Hurts has been to a Super Bowl. Lamar hasn't been out of the second round of the NFL playoffs. So in terms of like what they have and haven't done, they pretty much average out to being the same accomplishments for these two guys. I mean, the Super Bowl is probably a little bit more impressive than not making it past the second round, not making it to the AFC Championship game. But an MVP is more impressive than a second place MVP finish. Lamar has to get at least minimum $180 million guaranteed if he ever gets a deal done with the Baltimore Ravens. All right, last thing on today's episode, that's going to be MLB Power Rankings. We're doing these every single Monday for the rest of the year. For the rest of the MLB season, we're going to go through the top 10 we're really going to read through what these teams have done, and then we're going to do the rest 11 through 30 rapid fire style. The top 10, you can find those posted on Instagram as well with a very dope graphic, I think, is a very nice Instagram graphic there. So number one team in MLB for the second week in a row, Tampa Bay Rays. 14-2 this season, 8-2 in their last 10. They did lose their 2 games to the Toronto Blue Jays, but in their most recent week, they swept the Boston Red Sox, and then they lost, obviously, 2 out of 3 games to the Toronto Blue Jays. Real quick, how I do these power rankings. I did my preseason top 10, but I do not factor that in at all to how I do the rest of these power rankings week by week. I mean, last week to this week, I really base it off how these teams done, who have they played, how did they fare. I mean, obviously, week to week, I kind of look at it now. For example, if the A's won every single game this week and the Rays lost every single game this week, the A's would not be the number one team, right? Because they're not. They would move up a few spots and the Rays would move down a few spots. But that is how we do them, right? I do not care about my preseason power rankings. They mean absolutely nothing compared to the first week of power rankings from last week. So the Rays still stay at number 1. Like I said, number 2 is the Atlanta Braves. They move up 5 spots for me here. They're 12-4. They have a 6-game winning streak, and they're 7-3 in their last 10. And then this week, they swept Kansas City Royals and Cincinnati Reds. 2 weak teams, right, but they still swept them. Ronald Acuna Jr. has been amazing in this past week. 1 homer, 6 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, .450 average, 9 singles, 2 doubles. Ronald Acuna Jr. is on an MVP campaign this year. Number 3, Milwaukee Brewers. They dropped 1 spot for me. They were number 2 last week. They're 11-5, 6-4 in their last 10. They won both their series that they played. 3 out of 4 against San Diego and 2 out of 3 against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Number 4, Minnesota Twins. They drop a spot for me as well. They're 10-6, 6-4 in their last 10. They split the series with the Yankees and then took 2 out of 3 from the Chicago Cubs. They had a great game against the Yankees, in which they won 11-1. Number 5, Toronto Blue Jays. They move up 3 spots for me right here. 10-6 record, 7-3 in the last 10. 2-3, or they took 2 out of 3 from Detroit and the Tampa Bay Rays, who to that point were undefeated. Number 6, New York Yankees. They dropped 2 spots. They're 10-6, 6-4 in their last 10. Split with the Twins. Garrett Cole had a great game. I believe it was on Sunday. He went 9 innings pitched, complete game, 10 strikeouts for Garrett Cole. And then they took 2 out of 3 from the Cleveland Guardians. Number 7 is the New York Mets. This is the one of the few teams in here that have made one of the biggest jumps in the power rankings. They move up 7 spots. Last week they were ranked number 15. Right now they are ranked number 7. They're 10-6. They have a 4-game winning streak, 7-3 in their last 10. They took 2 out of 3 from the San Diego Padres at home, and then they swept the Oakland A's, which might be one of the easiest things to do of all time. Number 8, Cleveland Guardians. They move up 2 spots for me, 9-7, 5-5 in their last 10. Took 2 out of 3 from the Nationals, and then only one out of 3 against the New York Yankees. Had a tough time against those Yankees, but, I mean, you took 2 out of 3 from the Nationals, one of the worst teams in the league. I still think the Guardians, right there, Jose Ramirez and that pitching staff, And that offense, too, for Cleveland is still a really, really, really great team. Number 9, Texas Rangers. They move up 3 spots for me in this week. They're 9-6, 6-4 in the last 10. They took 2 out of 3 of Houston and 2 out of 3 from the Kansas City Royals, won both their series that they played this week. Number 10, Arizona Diamondbacks. They dropped 4 spots this week, 9-7 on the season, 6-4 in the last 10. They lost both their series that they played in this past week. 1 out of 3 against Miami, 1 out of 3 against Milwaukee. I still like, this team. Despite their losses, their guys have been playing well. None of their losses have been truly that bad. Right, Milwaukee's a really great team, and in Miami, they have great pitching, right? And that's going to happen sometimes. I still like the Diamondbacks. Currently, right now, the best team in the NL West in these power rankings. All right, here's the rest, 11 through 30. The Pittsburgh Pirates, they dropped 6 spots for me this week. Number 13, the Cubs, they move up 5. Orioles move up 5 spots. They are at 13. Number 14, the Mariners move up the most spots in these rankings. They move up 9 spots from 25 all the way up to 14. Yeah, 14. The Dodgers stay even at 15. They're still, they were at 15 last week, and they're right back there again this week. Marlins move up 5 spots. They are at 16. The Red Sox move down 4 spots. They are at 17. Padres move down 9 spots. That is the second highest margin this week that a team has moved down. They moved down 9 spots, after losing to the Brewers and losing to the Mets in their series this past week. The Cardinals move up 6 spots. The Astros stay even at number 20. The Angels move down the most spots of any team this past week. They dropped 10 spots after losing a game to the Nationals and then losing currently 3 out of 4 to the Red Sox. That game's still being played, I believe, and they might honestly get swept. The Phillies move up 4 spots. They're at 22. The Reds move down 7. They're now at 23. The White Sox move down 2 spots. They're at 24. 25 is the Tigers, who move up 5 spots. 26, Giants, who move down 7. Nationals move up 1 spot to 27. Rockies move down 4 to 28. Royals move down 2 to 29. And then the Oakland A's move down 1 spot to number 30, as they are the worst team in baseball, and they have a record of 3-13, I believe so. So those are the MLB Power Rankings for this week. We're going to do another one on Monday. Every single Monday, there's going to be new Power Rankings. Once again, the top 10 for this week. Tampa Bay Rays staying there at number 1. The Braves move up 5 spots to number 2. The Brewers move down 1 spot to number 3. Twins move down a spot to number 4. The Blue Jays, they move up 3 spots to number 5. The Yankees move down 2 spots to number 6. Mets up 7 spots to number 7. The Guardians up 2 to number 8. The Rangers up 3 spots to number 9. And then the Diamondbacks move down 4 spots to number 10 in this week's Power Rankings. That's going to do it for today's episode of the franchise. We're going to be back on Tuesday with another episode going over the Sixers, Nets, Warriors, Kings games, potentially doing an NFL mock draft and going over whatever else happens over the next 24 hours in the world of sports. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. All of those are in the description of every episode. You can find the franchise there. Be back tomorrow with another episode.